Welcome to a short overview of the Tuskira platform. Before we get into the demo, let's discuss how Tuskira works as a bit of background. The platform starts by ingesting as much context as possible about the environment, starting with the cloud and on-premise infrastructure, compensating controls such as WAF and EDR, SIM context, threat feeds, and importantly, alerts and data from your CNAP, CSPM, and vulnerability or other alerting tools. All of this data is analyzed and contextualized by the platform's AI models and then turned into a digital twin. That digital twin is the heart of how Tuskira is able to use its AI agents to reduce noise, validate defenses, improve security posture, and reduce the time to mitigate or remediate issues. Now, with that context, let's take a look at the platform. As we start, the dashboard provides us initially with a global view of all of the things we can do to reduce risk and vulnerability. And we'll start with noise reduction, looking at our vulnerabilities with exploits available in the environment, giving us a quick view into the most critical things that we can look at starting off. You can see here a list of different vulnerabilities, their severity, and then their related risk based on what Tuskira knows. We'll click into this first one and be able to see some basic information about the exploit, and then go into our classification. This gives us some information about how Tuskira views the vulnerability and how we then classify that. Because we're able to see holistically the environment, we can understand that there are mitigations in place that reduce the risk from severe to only high. But we do have other defenses we can put in place using existing mitigation tools. In this case, AWS WAF and Microsoft Defender. We can see here that we have a number of different policies that can be enabled. Now, if we come down to the second one, you can see that this is a high severity. We get the same information, but our classification turns to low. And as we go into the classification view, we can see that's because we have a number of mitigations already in place using the existing tooling within the environment. There are some additional mitigations that can be turned on, but overall, this vulnerability is classified as much lower. Coming back to our dashboard, and going beyond the noise reduction, we can look at prioritizing remediations that will impact our environment as a whole. Let's dive into the WAF reductions. So this is looking at the number of different policies that we can implement that will have a more global impact. So in this case, looking at any of these individual policies will have an impact on between 30 and 40 different vulnerabilities and any number of different assets. This is a demo environment, so there's only a handful of assets, but in a production environment, this could impact a large number for little effort. Now, as we go back to our dashboards, we're going to move over to the Enterprise Exposure Dashboard. This will give us a more defined view of the environment. We're going to start with some of these security widgets down below. I want to focus on the vendor-reported and undefended vulnerabilities. This is a fantastic view of what the team should be working on a day-to-day basis. You're going to start with the no defense. These are the 41, in this case, highest priorities for the team to start to mitigate. These are the things that are going to get your environment compromised. Move on to the low defense. If we then go on to our vulnerabilities and mitigations widget, this is another view into sweeping changes that we can make that will impact the environment quickly and reduce our risk. However, this dashboard has more than just overviews to it. We can come back up to the top and we'll be able to see our prioritized attack chains. This is where we can drill into individual applications and see the highest risks that we have. We're going to go into our file share app here and look at some of those prioritized attack chains that will pose the most threat inside of our environment. You can see here the number that we have, including the vulnerabilities and the potential mitigations that we have. And we're going to go into an OS command injection vulnerability chain that will take a look in our lab environment. This is going to take us into our digital twin. This is really the heart of what Tuskira does to evaluate. And you can see all of the different components here, from the application to the URL, DNS, IP addresses, to even the mitigation tools that we have in place, from the WAF to the Falco CDR that's in place, to even the SIM context that we're pulling in. What is nice about this too is we can look at the vulnerabilities here and get more information, from the exploit request, so if you want to dig through logs and see that, to the response. This helps us validate what we're seeing inside of the digital twin and inside of the environment. We're going to flip back over to this classification. Now this is a familiar window to us now. We can see that vendor severity, the residual risk, and we can see we have some policies that we can implement. And as we go over to our mitigations, we have a number that can be implemented on our Falco CDR or our Cloudflare WAF. Now, all of these can be manually exported from here directly so that an engineer could implement these. Or one of the most powerful things we have inside the Tuskira platform is the ability to automate these responses using the agentic AI. Not only does it evaluate and find these issues, but it can make recommended changes and create a ticket in Jira and ServiceNow, interact with your engineers directly on Slack. It can become a part of your SOC team so that when an issue is found, when a risk is discovered, the system not only finds it, reports it, but then makes recommendations on changes that can mitigate or eliminate that risk. Now we'll come back to the dashboard. The ultimate goal behind the Tuskira platform is to cut through the noise that all of your various bad news tools are giving you. We have 30,000 alerts coming in. We have all of these high priority vulnerabilities, these risks in the cloud. Take all of the context from your infrastructure, from your threat feeds, from your vulnerability tools. Look at your environment holistically so that you understand what is going on, what really matters, what have you mitigated, what can you mitigate, what needs to be fixed. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and we would love to answer those questions for you.